Humanity had always imagined its end would come with warning. Maybe with the burn of atmospheric entry, the shudder of warheads screaming across the oceans, or the slow, suffocating collapse of ecosystems long pushed beyond repair. Yet when the world finally changed, truly changed, it did so with a silence so complete that it fractured the very idea of what safety meant. On an ordinary night that began like any other, humanity vanished. But it did not vanish in the way legends warned or prophets preached. It vanished with purpose. It vanished with precision. It vanished in a way that unsettled every watching species across the scattered arms of the galaxy. The event, later given 1,000 names, began as a flicker of electromagnetic static across the skies of Earth. A ripple too soft for most instruments, too subtle for civilian sensors, barely noticeable even to the advanced listening posts buried deep beneath American deserts and Arctic ice. Yet those who studied the anomaly would later describe it as a pulse that rewrote expectation itself, a whisper of something ancient awakening. At 02:16:43 UTC, 500,000 vessels rose from the surface of Earth. No warnings, no transmissions, no broadcasts, no demands, no pleas for help, just ascension. Every continent, every ocean, every nation, North America, South America, Europe, Africa, Asia, Oceania, each one gave birth to thousands of rising machines. They emerged from bunkers, from beneath lakes, from the floors of abandoned factories. Some rose from farmland that had never known war. Others ascended from beneath Pacific trenches so deep that light had never touched them. The vessels lifted with uniform grace, silent and cold, their hulls reflecting the moonlight in fractured patterns as though they were wrapped in mirrors shaped by unknown mathematics. To the untrained observer, it appeared as if Earth had been preparing for centuries. To those watching from beyond Earth, those who had quietly monitored humanity as a curious, unpredictable species, the sight triggered panic that rippled across the void. For despite humanity's youth, despite its inexperience in the cosmic scale, despite its internal divisions and history of conflict, the galaxy had long recognized one truth: humans were dangerous in ways no algorithm fully predicted. Their creativity bent logic. Their resilience strained probability. Their ability to adapt made them feared by species far older and far more technologically refined. Still, no galactic power believed humans capable of this. From the surface, the spectacle burned itself into the memory of the few automated recording systems still active. Cameras with no human operators left behind time-stamped visuals of skies teeming with vessels, wedge-shaped craft, arrowhead silhouettes, rotating disks, massive interlocking rings whose centers glowed with impossible light. Some were sleek like weapons, others resembled floating fortresses. Others appeared almost biological, with surfaces that shifted like living skin, reflecting patterns that seemed to pulse with thought. They rose in perfect formation, then accelerated beyond the capacity of human-made aerospace vehicles. They did not shake, they did not roar, they carved through the atmosphere as though space itself bent aside to let them pass. All 500,000 vessels exited Earth within 7 minutes. Then Earth went silent. Human civilization, its cities, its suburbs, its highways, its power grids, continued humming for several more hours, fueled by automated systems and inertia. But every human was gone. Hospitals found empty beds. Aircraft flew without pilots until fuel exhaustion returned them to the ground. Trains barreled down their tracks without passengers. Communication networks stayed open but received no voices. Across the United States, military installations continued operating in autonomous protocols, but without personnel, their security routines degraded into loops of repetition. From orbit, satellites recorded a world absent of its makers, a planet bustling with movement, yet devoid of the species that built the motion. The galaxy reacted as though a beast had stirred. Across distant star systems, governments scrambled to interpret the event. The Jar Dominion, whose mathematicians considered humans a future strategic threat, initiated emergency war readiness protocols. The Avril Harmonies, a species of near-pacifist social thinkers, released a universal distress warning declaring the disappearance of humanity a destabilizing force with galactic implications. The Cathari regencies temporarily sealed their borders, fearing the event signaled a human-first expansion. But deeper than fear lay a more profound emotion, curiosity sharpened into dread, for no one understood how humanity vanished or why. The vessels themselves provided few answers. Their recorded structures did not match any known human aerospace design, yet they bore unmistakable traces of human aesthetic and de-engineering logic. The paneling suggested Earth-sourced materials. The energy emissions hinted at fission or fusion derivatives augmented by something far more advanced. And beneath the layered technology, some analysts claim to detect neurological signatures, patterns that resembled human cognitive thought imprinted into the vessel's computational systems. Theories multiplied. Some believed humanity had developed a hidden technology so advanced that it masked itself from every detection method until deployment. Others suspected intervention by an external force that uplifted or abducted the entire species. There were rumors that humanity had uncovered something buried beneath their planet, something not meant for a young species to wield. But in the quiet corners of the galaxy, where intelligence agencies whispered about the unpredictable nature of Earth, a different narrative took shape, a narrative rooted not in fear, but in respect. Humanity had prepared. Humanity had acted. Humanity had ascended. Meanwhile, Earth's automated systems continued to record the aftermath. Oceans remained calm. Winds moved across forests untouched. Wildlife roamed freely without the noise of human civilization. The quiet was eerie, but it was not the quiet of extinction. It was the quiet of transition, the quiet of a new story beginning. In the ruins of human infrastructure, certain anomalies began to appear, constructs that had not existed the day before. Metallic structures grew like crystalline towers where open fields once stood. Energy signatures radiated from abandoned buildings, their walls glowing faintly with hexagonal patterns. In Nevada, deep beneath military testing, ranges long shrouded in secrecy, dormant machinery awoke. Giant rotating rings that shifted as though realigning for a greater purpose. The remnants of Earth's automated monitoring systems transmitted these findings into space, unaware of who might be listening. Many were. The first galactic ships arrived within hours. Probe fleets from the Vinla observatories entered Earth's atmosphere cautiously, expecting debris or radiation or evidence of catastrophic loss. Instead, they found a pristine world suspended in unnatural stillness. Sensors detected faint electromagnetic residue in the shapes of spirals that reached into the upper atmosphere before thinning into nothing. Geometric scorch marks stained deserts in patterns too precise to be natural yet too ancient to have been created that night. Man-made vehicles, cars, planes, ships remained untouched, but every form of communication that relied on human interaction showed only emptiness. No brainwave activity, no heartbeat signatures, no living humans. And yet humanity's presence lingered everywhere. Personal belongings remained exactly where they had been left. Meals sat half-eaten on tables. A baseball game in Ohio continued broadcasting on stadium screens long after every spectator and athlete had vanished. In Texas, machine shops filled with tools still hummed with warm motors, abandoned mid-operation. In New York City, millions of lights illuminated empty streets where only the automated systems of skyscrapers maintained their ceaseless rhythm. To the rest of the galaxy, this was not the signature of destruction. This was the signature of evacuation. But where had they gone, and why leave behind 500,000 ships? As galactic investigators spread across Earth, they noticed the planetary magnetic field had shifted, not subtly, but significantly. It pulsed with an oscillation that mimicked neural activity, as though Earth itself were thinking. Some sensors captured what appeared to be encoded messages hidden within the oscillations, messages that repeated in recursive spirals. Attempts to decode them produced patterns that resembled human language but defied translation. High above, the 500,000 vessels traveled outward in vast clusters, spreading across trajectories that converged toward a single point deep within the Orion spur. They moved too quickly to intercept and too quietly to track using standard galactic techniques. Even the most advanced species found themselves unable to predict the fleet's vector beyond the first few hours. The ascension of the vessels and the disappearance of humanity became the most significant event in recorded galactic history. Every species that had once underestimated humans reassessed its understanding. Every species that had once ignored Earth shifted its attention toward the empty world, like astronomers studying a silent star after a supernova. But as the investigations deepened, evidence emerged indicating this phenomenon had been unfolding for decades right under the galaxy's nose. Across Earth, hidden vaults contained technologies centuries ahead of humanity's known capabilities. Some structures bore materials that no human manufacturing plant could have produced. Energy signatures recorded in remote areas matched those used by species F. Are older than humans. And everywhere, buried beneath the layers of secrecy, lay traces of something unmistakable, signatures of intentionality, strategy, long-term coordination on a global scale. It suggested a truth more unsettling than humanity's sudden departure. Humanity had not only prepared for what was coming. Humanity had planned it. Somewhere in the silence of Earth's abandoned cities, automated systems gradually shifted from standby to active status. They executed protocols written in human languages and coding schemes unknown to any governmental archive. Satellites adjusted their positions without ground control. Deep ocean generators activated in synchronized pulses. Across the United States, dormant launch facilities began cycling through diagnostics written in a dialect of military engineering that analysts determined had not been created by any known department. Humanity had left, but humanity had also left behind a legacy built with intent, a final message forged not with words but with preparation. And far across the galaxy, the 500,000 vessels continued on their divergent trajectories, guided by a purpose known only to those who had programmed them in the shadows of the world that once called itself home. What terrified the galaxy most was not the silence, the mystery, or the absence of humanity's voice. What terrified the galaxy most was the realization that humanity had acted as one. A species once fractured had executed the most coordinated departure ever witnessed, not through chaos, not through desperation, but through strategy so vast in scale that no other civilization had even recognized its beginnings. And whatever had driven humanity to leave, whatever threat or opportunity had demanded such unity, was still unknown. Earth waited. The galaxy watched. And the void between stars throbbed with the weight of the unknown rise of humankind. The night humanity vanished was not an ending. It was a declaration that humanity had stepped beyond the boundaries of its world, and that something magnificent, terrifying, and unstoppable had already begun. The disappearance of humanity settled over the galaxy like a storm cloud that refused to dissipate. Days after the exodus, entire star systems remained paralyzed, their governments caught between panic and fascination as they attempted to comprehend what had occurred on the small blue planet they had long observed from afar. Humanity had been an anomaly, a species whose innovations outpaced logic, whose unpredictability made it both feared and admired. Yet nothing had prepared the galaxy for the depth of strategy revealed by their vanishing act. Within the borders of the Jar Dominion, one of the most formidable militaristic empires in the Orion Spur, alarm cascaded through command networks. The Dominion had invested centuries building an intelligence model capable of predicting the rise of other species. Humanity, as expected, had been flagged as an emergent threat, one with a rapid upward trajectory of innovation and a collective willpower that defied the Dominion's predictive systems. Yet even they, with their legions of analysts and their exhaustive surveillance of Earth's electromagnetic emissions, had detected nothing suggesting that 500,000 vessels were hidden beneath the continents and oceans of the human homeworld. The Dominion's war councils convened in urgency, armadas repositioned along their borders. Entire fleets dedicated themselves to monitoring the trajectories of the departing human vessels, despite the near-impossible challenge of tracking ships that moved with such strategic precision. For the first time in centuries, the Dominion found itself facing an opponent whose plan they did not understand, and worse, one whose motives remained entirely concealed. To the Dominion, ignorance was more terrifying than enemy strength. Meanwhile, the Avril Harmonies responded not with aggression but with sorrow. A species of soft-voiced philosophers and neural collective empaths, they viewed humanity's abrupt departure as a tragedy, the silencing of a species whose potential had only begun to unfold. In their great domes of light, Avril memory keepers searched through centuries of stored broadcasts, films, music, speeches, cultural artifacts, taken from humanity's electromagnetic spillover into space. They studied everything from American news channels to children's cartoons, attempting to understand the emotional heartbeat of a species that had now disappeared. They concluded that humanity's last act was not one of fear or surrender, but an act of determination, a decision made with resolve, a gesture of something larger than survival. Yet even they could not determine whether humanity left to escape something or to confront something greater beyond the stars. In the Kithari Regencies, a species whose political structure revolved around paranoia and elaborate defense mechanisms, the disappearance of humans trigger the highest possible threat index. Defensive grids activated across planets. Shield barriers rose like shimmering domes above cities. The Kithari feared that humanity's sudden departure was the precursor to a weaponized return. Their leadership speculated that 500,000 human vessels could hide within asteroid belts or nebula clouds, ready to strike without warning. Their societies debated evacuation, refuge building, and isolationism. Yet beneath their fear lay a deeper truth. The Kithari felt threatened not by humanity's aggression, but by humanity's unknown potential. Across the galaxy, countless species attempted to interpret the event, but they shared one universal reaction: tension. A drawn-out breath suspended between understanding and dread. Civilization had always depended on predictability, yet humanity had shattered that comfort with one coordinated movement. While the galaxy trembled, Earth remained still. The empty cities of North America stood like monuments to a vanished civilization. Skyscrapers of chrome and steel cast long shadows over deserted streets. In Washington, D.C., monuments built to immortalize American ideals, liberty, unity, courage, stood unchanged, their stone surfaces washed in the morning light. Birds perched on statues. Leaves rustled along walkways once busy with crowds. The heart of a nation continued beating in silence, driven not by its people, but by the systems they had left behind. Automated drones patrolled their usual routes above cities, where the monitors continued broadcasting data no humans were present to interpret. Solar panels tracked the sun. Hydroelectric dams released water with steady, controlled precision. The United States, like every nation on Earth, had become a ghost of infrastructure and routine, a world running on autopilot, waiting for creators who had vanished without leaving a single body behind. Yet signs began to appear that humanity's disappearance was only the first chapter of a greater narrative. In the American Midwest, vast stretches of farmland transformed beneath the eyes of galactic investigators. The soil itself began to shift, reshaping into geometric terraces that glowed faintly with embedded circuitry. Drones detected vertical spikes of energy, each one aligned with celestial coordinates. The structures seemed to pulse in synchrony with Earth's magnetic field. They were not relics of human industry, but new constructs, emerging spontaneously, as though Earth had become a machine executing a plan written into its core. In Colorado, NORAD's automated systems revealed encrypted files that no current human institution had created. These files contained layers of mathematical instructions that traced themselves into diagrams resembling star maps, maps with routes converging on a single location deep within the Orion Spur. Analysts from across the galaxy watched in awe as Earth revealed fragments of what humanity had intended. In the Pacific Northwest, forests rippled with unfamiliar energy signatures. Trees vibrated with low-frequency tones that seemed almost organic. Some species believed the planet was undergoing a metamorphosis, shifting into something new as a final message or a final defense. Galactic scientists struggled to determine whether these phenomena were natural consequences of humanity's departure or deliberate triggers humanity had implanted before leaving. The distinction mattered, yet neither possibility comforted them. For if Earth had been altered intentionally, then humanity's technological capability exceeded anything previously recorded. If Earth had transformed on its own in response to the absence of humans, then the species had forged a bond with its planet deeper than anyone imagined, perhaps even symbiotic. And if Earth was neither responding nor following a plan, but instead awakening, the implications shook every observatory across the stars. Earth might not have been a simple world, it might have been something more. The galaxy was not inexperienced in facing powerful species, but humanity had been presumed young, far from unlocking the deeper layers of cosmic power. The evidence now suggested the opposite. The evidence suggested that humanity had not merely prepared for some external threat, but had built an infrastructure designed for one strategic purpose: transition. Transition from a planetary species to a multi-system force. The 500,000 vessels remained a central mystery. Their trajectories formed patterns no one could fully decipher. They diverged and reconverged in spirals of precision that exceeded even the most advanced navigation computers of elder civilizations. The ships behaved as though guided by a collective consciousness, yet no signals linked them. Some analysts proposed that each vessel contained a fragment of humanity, memories, personalities, consciousness, encoded into adaptive neural matrices. If true, then humanity had not vanished. Humanity had evolved. No civilization wanted to believe this theory, for it implied humanity had reached a level of integration between mind and machine that placed it among the most advanced species in recorded history. It suggested humanity had taken its entire population, converted their bodies into energy, and integrated their consciousness into starbound vessels. The thought of billions of human minds navigating the galaxy inside advanced war-ready machines sent tremors across political alliances. For humanity had already demonstrated ingenuity in physical form. As a post-physical entity, if that was indeed their state, their potential could be limitless. While the galaxy debated these theories, a new anomaly emerged, sending shockwaves deeper than the first event. Across dozens of star systems, ancient ruins, structures older than any current civilization began to activate. These ruins existed on worlds humanity had never visited, yet they responded directly to the signatures emitted by the departing human fleet. Long-dormant machines shook off dust gathered across epochs. Crystalline structures lit with soft blue radiance. Energy patterns linked ruins separated by thousands of light years. It was as though humanity's ascension had triggered a sleeping network older than recorded history. Some species argued the ruins belonged to an extinct civilization that humanity had unknowingly inherited. Others believed a forgotten empire had foreseen humanity's rise and had woven technology into the fabric of cosmic expansion to guide them. A few theorized that humanity was the return of an ancient species, reborn or reincarnated to resume a mantle they once held. But in the darkest corners of the galaxy, another explanation took shape. Humanity had awakened something. Something old. Something powerful. Something watching. This possibility frightened the galaxy more than humanity itself, because humanity's disappearance no longer looked like an escape or an evacuation. It looked like a prelude. Meanwhile, galactic fleets intensified their surveillance of Earth. The United States' most secure facilities, once believed to be merely human military complexes, revealed depths that defied logical explanation. Beneath Cheyenne Mountain, chambers carved from rock glowed with holographic maps showing star systems the galaxy had yet to explore. Beneath the deserts of Nevada, cavern structures held reactors powered by unfamiliar fuel sources that pulsed with harmonic frequencies aligned to the vessel's departure vector. These discoveries painted a sobering picture. Humanity had been preparing a response for a threat that the galaxy did not even know existed. And the timing of their departure suggested that the threat had arrived. The question that haunted every star system was simple and terrifying. If humanity had left to fight something, what were they fighting? And if they had left to meet something, what had called them? As days passed, galactic anxiety hardened into a preparation of its own. Alliances formed among species that had previously viewed one another with suspicion. Treaties were signed. Military exercises intensified. The disappearance of humanity became more than a mystery, it became a catalyst, a reason for the galaxy to unify against the unknown. Humanity had left behind more than a silent Earth. They had left behind a question that threatened the stability of every civilization. A question that would define the future. Had humanity ascended to confront a cosmic enemy? Or had they ascended to claim their place among the greatest powers the galaxy had ever known? The silence of humanity became the loudest sound in the universe. And the galaxy held its breath, waiting for the next movement in a story that was only beginning. The galaxy had not known true silence in 1,000,000 years, yet the disappearance of humanity cast an unnerving stillness across every inhabited sector. It settled into the minds of governments and citizens alike, a quiet, gnawing realization that a species capable of unpredictability had suddenly executed the most coordinated maneuver in recorded history, without warning and without witnesses. While fear spread, something far colder crept into the collective consciousness of the galaxy: uncertainty. Humanity had always been the outlier, a species that rose faster than projections, innovated beyond available resources, survived catastrophes by redefining what catastrophe meant. In the span of mere centuries, they had leapt from wooden boats to nuclear propulsion, from scattered colonies to global communication networks, from isolation to interconnectedness. Their history was messy, chaotic, contradictory, yet their momentum had always pointed upward. Now that upward trajectory had become literal. Every vessel humanity launched had aligned with a singular destination deep within Orion's arm. Though no galactic power could track them after their initial burn, the signature of their departure burned itsy LF into spacetime like the tail of a comet. Analysts traced the path as far as they could, extrapolating trajectories through gravitational fields and cosmic dust. The more they calculated, the more disturbing the truth became. Humanity's fleet was not traveling to a star. It was traveling to a void. A region known across maps only as the Silent Rift, one of the few places where even ancient civilizations refused to explore. A place where probes vanished and signals dissolved. A stretch of space believed cursed, haunted by gravitational anomalies that devoured matter and energy alike. Species far older than humanity had skirted it, fearing what lay inside. To them, it was a region best left undisturbed. But humanity was not avoiding it. Humanity was heading straight into it. Theories erupted. Some believed the rift was the source of a threat humanity had discovered. Others argued that it was the location of an ancient power hidden for eons, awakening now in response to human emergence. A few suggested that humanity was not going there willingly, that the fleet was being pulled, guided, compelled by forces beyond understanding. Yet Earth continued to transform in ways that suggested intent, not compulsion. In the United States, the most dramatic change unfolded beneath the Great Plains. Millions of acres of land shifted into geometric formations visible from orbit, forming circuits that resembled titanic processors. Galactic scientists speculated that Earth itself had become a computational engine, an organic technological hybrid designed to interface with something beyond current understanding. Across North America, the tectonic plates resonated with steady pulses, synchronizing with energy fluctuations in the Pacific and Atlantic. These pulses aligned perfectly with the predicted arrival time of humanity's fleet at the edge of the Silent Rift. It was as though Earth were preparing for a reply, a return, or a revelation. Meanwhile, the galaxy scrambled to assemble task forces capable of responding to whatever humanity had initiated. The Jar Dominion established the observation shield, a sprawling network of stealth carriers positioned around systems nearest the rift. Their purpose was simple: watch for anything emerging, human or otherwise. The Dominion's leaders did not fear the unknown. They feared the possibility that humanity had become something capable of reshaping the balance of power in an instant. The Avral Harmonies responded differently. They believed humanity was undergoing transcendence, a metamorphosis from a planetary species into a cosmic entity. Their memory keepers sought emotional understanding by studying the last broadcasts humanity had ever sent. They immersed themselves in American media, analyzing everything from political debates to science documentaries, from disaster coverage to sports events. In every fragment they studied, they observed a pattern. Humans thrived in adversity. Hardship ignited their creativity. Pressure forged their resolve. To the Avral, humanity's disappearance was not the mark of defeat. It was the beginning of a new stage in their evolution. The Cathari regencies remained unconvinced. To them, humanity's move signaled potential aggression on a scale unseen in millennia. They fortified entire regions of their territory with antimatter shields and gravitational mines. Their oracles predicted either humanity's return or the emergence of something that had compelled humanity to leave. In either case, they prepared for war. Yet even the Cathari faltered when a new discovery arrived, a discovery that unraveled everything the galaxy thought it understood. Throughout dozens of systems, relics older than any known species lit with signals synchronized to Earth's magnetic pulses. Ruins once considered archaeological curiosities now behaved like living technology. Some unfolded into structures shaped by impossible geometry. Others emitted low tones reminiscent of human brainwaves. On worlds where no record of human visitation existed, symbols appeared that resembled languages carved on Earth thousands of years earlier. In the archives of the ancient Lithuros rings, researchers discovered a star map that matched the pattern emerging on Earth. The map pointed toward the silent rift. At its center was a symbol interpreted by translators as one word: return. This discovery initiated a wave of panic and awe. It suggested that humanity's departure had been anticipated long before humanity existed. Not by Earth, not by human ancestors, but by something older, something vast, something embedded into the scaffolding of the galaxy itself. But the greatest revelation came from a source no one expected. On a quiet moon within the Frevel system, a relic long dormant activated for the first time in millions of years. Its crystalline core projected a repeating signal in rhythmic pulses. Initially, the signal seemed random. Yet after days of decoding attempts, the pattern aligned with a biological frequency familiar across medical databases. It matched the human heartbeat. The galaxy reeled, for the signal was not only a match for human cardiac rhythm, it matched the average heartbeat of humanity as recorded the night before they vanished. Whatever had awakened the relic had done so in response to the human exodus. A terrifying thought crystallized across the galaxy's greatest minds. Humanity was connected to something ancient, something that had waited, something that recognized them. But recognition could mean kinship or judgment. Across Earth's surface, the transformations intensified. Lakes rearranged their shapes, rivers bent their paths, crop fields self-organized into swirling spirals visible from space. In the American Southwest, desert sands shifted aside to reveal subterranean vaults stretching for miles, vaults lined with machines that resembled star drives, fusion cores, and gravitational engines. It was as though humanity had embedded an interstellar manufacturing network beneath their own soil, waiting for activation. But the strangest phenomenon occurred in Yellowstone National Park. The supervolcano's caldera pulsed with controlled magnetic fields, forming stable containment rings that held the energy in a perfect balance. It was no longer a threat, it had become a power source. Galactic observers compared its transformation to the heart of a titanic engine, pulsing steadily in sync with Earth's global rhythm. The United States, once a nation, now resembled an awakening machine. All the while, the 500,000 human vessels neared the edge of the silent rift. Although direct tracking was impossible, gravitational disturbances rippled across nearby star systems. The disturbances were rhythmic, echoing the pattern of Earth's magnetic field, as though the fleet and their homeworld remained connected across light years. Then, without warning, the galaxy witnessed the first sign of contact. A gravitational shockwave swept outward from the silent rift, powerful enough to shake entire solar systems. It did not destroy, it announced. Every sensor, every listening post, every vessel trained toward the rift captured the same thing. A space had moved. Not just twisted or bent, moved. The rift expanded. It unfurled like a cosmic flower opening after millennia of dormancy, revealing an interior not of darkness, but of shimmering latticework, threads of energy weaving in fractal patterns that defied dimensional comprehension. The region long feared as a void was revealed to be a structure, not a natural formation, a construct, a gateway, a machine built into the bones of the galaxy. And humanity's fleet was heading directly toward its center. The Jar Dominion initiated full mobilization, preparing for scenarios ranging from war to extinction. The Avril fell into collective meditation, sensing an emotional crescendo spreading across the universe, a rising heat that felt like anticipation. The Kithari considered whether the rift's opening was a cosmic invitation or a beacon for something unfathomable. Across humanless Earth, the planet reacted in unison. All formations across the globe shifted into alignment. Energy surged through circuits carved into terrain. The magnetic poles pulsed with harmonic resonance. Every structure humanity left behind lit with blue-white radiance. It was as if Earth were calling out to the fleet or receiving instructions from something beyond human origin. Some species posited that humanity had built these systems as compensation or preparation for their departure. Others believed Earth itself was awakening as a guardian, tasked with defending or supporting humanity's return. But many feared a darker truth. Humanity might not have been the architects of these systems. Humanity might have been the inheritors. And soon, the inheritor would meet the originator. As galactic panic surged, a disturbing new development struck. Across the galaxy's outer rim, stars began to flicker. The flicker was not natural, it was synchronized. One by one, over a span of hours, dozens of stars dimmed briefly, emitting pulses identical to the heartbeat signal found in the Freville relic. Then they brightened, stronger than before. Astrophysicists scrambled to understand the phenomenon, but only one explanation fit the data. The stars had been scanned, measured, synchronized. Whatever was awakening in the rift possessed the capability to synchronize stellar output like tuning instruments. This caused a realization to bloom in minds across the galaxy. The entity or system humanity was approaching operated at scales far beyond anything the galaxy's civilizations possessed. Yet humanity, impossibly, astonishingly, had gone to confront it. This revelation reshaped the galaxy's view of humans instantly and permanently. Humanity was not naive. Humanity was not reckless. Humanity was not lost. Humanity was responding to a call older than their speci. A call woven into the galaxy itself. The great unraveling, spoken in whispers across star systems, was not merely the unraveling of truth. It was the unraveling of ignorance. The galaxy had believed humanity was rising. But humanity had not risen. Humanity had been ascending, and the true ascent had only just begun. The silent rift continued to open like a wound in the galaxy, yet not one born of destruction, but of revelation. Its interior, once a featureless void, now shimmered with threads of living light that wove through space in colossal arcs, forming a structure so vast that entire star systems could have been nested within it without touching its edges. The galaxy had feared the rift for millennia, believing it to be a place where matter dissolved and signals died. Now it understood that it was neither dead nor empty. It was dormant until humanity arrived. Across the observing fleets scattered along the rift's perimeter, calculations poured in as scientists, analysts, and artificial intelligences attempted to quantify the impossible. The structure within the rift exhibited gravitational stability despite its apparent lack of a central star. Energy readings fluctuated in harmonic sequences, recurring every 1.2 seconds, each pulse resonating with the altered magnetic field of Earth across 40,000 light-years. Even at such distance, the link was clear. The rift and Earth were communicating, their signals intertwined like two hearts beating in synchrony. The galaxy had long underestimated humanity's relationship with its homeworld. Until now, no species had imagined that Earth might serve as a keystone in an interstellar architecture predating human civilization. Yet the evidence grew undeniable. Every shift in Earth's magnetic resonance triggered a sympathetic ripple within the rift. Every pulse from the rift generated structural realignments in the transformations sweeping across Earth. Humanity had vanished, but their absence was not a severing. It was a connection. The 500,000 ships reached the outer edge of the rift's interior. Though sensors could not directly track their position, gravitational echoes painted a shape of their movement. They entered the rift's shimmering veil with perfect formation, vanishing into radiant mist that swallowed light and bent time around itself. Even the most hardened galactic tacticians felt awe creeping into their bones. Humanity, once a planet-bound species humanity had seemed, was now entering a celestial structure that civilizations millions of years older had dared not approach. But the galaxy's shock only deepened when the truth emerged from newly awakened relics scattered across ancient worlds. The relics formed a network. The network was old beyond estimation, and humanity was the activation key. On Avril Prime, memory keepers interfaced with a relic using neural resonance, the only safe method of communication. The relic's crystalline surface projected shapes formed from impossible geometry, bending and folding like a dimensional puzzle. Its revealed message stunned even the most disciplined minds of the Avril. The relic conveyed that the network had waited for a resonant species, a species capable of aligning consciousness, creativity, emotion, logic, and adaptation in equal measure. A species capable of both destruction and compassion. A species capable of unifying its diversity into purpose without coercion. That species was humanity. The galaxy had once believed humans fractured, chaotic, irrational. Yet these very traits, variability, unpredictability, imagination, constituted the resonance required to activate the ancient network. The relic network had not been built for species that followed predictable evolutionary paths. It had been built for species that defied them. Humanity was the anomaly the network had sought. As these findings spread, civilizations re-evaluated every assumption they had held about humans. Their wars, their triumphs, their inventions, their art, their refusal to surrender to extinction again and again. These were no longer seen as mere quirks of an unusual species. They were qualifications, evidence that humanity possessed the rare blend of traits capable of interfacing with something primordial and immense. But if humanity's ascendancy had been anticipated, then the galaxy now faced an even deeper question. What was the network preparing humanity for? The Cathari believed the answer was war. They argued that no entity built a galaxy-spanning network for benevolent intent. Something had to be coming, something humanity had been chosen or engineered to confront. Their installations launched thousands of defensive platforms, ready to repel anything emerging from the rift. The Jar Dominion prepared for a different scenario: power reclamation. They believed the ancient network was a remnant of a bygone empire seeking a successor. If humanity had been chosen to inherit its legacy, then the balance of power across the Orion Spur would shatter. The Dominion secretly mobilized its elite strike fleets, prepared to intercept humanity should they return from the rift, with technology capable of rewriting reality. Yet for all their speculation, not a single civilization predicted what happened next. The rift pulsed. Once, twice, three times. The pulses rippled outward at the speed of light, traversing systems, brushing across stars, shaking spacecraft with a resonance felt not just in hulls but in minds. Species across the galaxy experienced a shared sensation, like a tremor of emotion that did not belong to them. The feeling was unfamiliar yet unmistakable: awakening. It was as though the galaxy itself was drawing breath. Then from deep within the rift, a shape emerged from the glowing mist, so vast and intricate that even the largest galactic dreadnoughts would have been mere specks beside it. The structure resembled a starforge, yet far more complex. Its surface shimmered with patterns reminiscent of neurons firing across a colossal brain. Energy arced along its surface like lightning braided into deliberate pathways. Matter formed and dissolved within its lattice as if it was sculpting reality in real time. This was no machine. This was an architect. A creation engine built to design civilizations, guide evolution, and shape the destiny of star systems. It was the greatest artifact ever observed, and it had awakened only when humanity entered the rift. The galaxy realized something devastating. Humanity had not gone to confront a threat. Humanity had gone to awaken a teacher. But even this revelation was incomplete. For within the architect's radiant shell, faint silhouettes moved, shapes the sensors initially misclassified as energy fluctuations before recognizing their geometry. They were vessels, human vessels, ascending through the architect's interior like sparks rising through a solar flare. Ships that once seemed advanced now looked primitive beside the architect's scale, yet they moved with purpose, synchronizing with the colossal machine as though engaging in a dialogue of motion. The architect responded to the human fleet with luminescent strands stretching across its surface, each strand connecting to a ship. Pulses of information surged through these conduits, exchanging data incomprehensible to the observers watching from afar. The galaxy realized with growing dread and wonder that humanity was not following orders. Humanity was learning. And the architect, this impossible construct left by a civilization long vanished, was teaching them. On Earth, the planetary grid reached maximum resonance. Energy surged through crystalline formations that had grown across continents, linking oceans, mountains, and cities into a planetary lattice. North America's geometric patterns illuminated the night sky with light so bright that satellites recorded streaks of atomized particles rising into the atmosphere like sparks from a great forge. Earth was no longer simply a homeworld. It was now a beacon, a node, a part of the network, and it was preparing. The Avril memory keepers sensed a shift in human emotional residue across the universe, a rising determination that felt like steel heated in a forge then quenched in ice. It carried the weight of decision, the momentum of purpose, the gravity of a species embracing destiny rather than enduring it. Yet even as awe spread, fear multiplied. Because the architect awakening triggered something else. Beyond the rift, in the farthest reaches of the galaxy, gravitational anomalies began to spike. Dark regions long considered uninhabited suddenly emitted pulse signatures. Worlds without history showed traces of recent molecular disturbance. And in void sectors untouched by starlight, watchers detected movement, massive shapes with no stellar emission, no biological signature, and no known classification. Something else was waking. Something not part of the network. Something rising in response to humanity's ascent. The galaxy realized the truth too late. The ancient network had not been built to elevate one species. It had been built to resist another. Humanity had not been chosen to inherit power. Humanity had been chosen to stand. Yet even this revelation did not break the rising tide of awe, because across the rift, the architect released a wave of energy unlike anything previously recorded. It moved across space-time like a ripple expanding outward from the core of a supernova. Yet it did not burn or destroy. It illuminated. Every civilization felt it. Every planet, every moon, every drifting vessel. The wave carried knowledge, not in languages or words, but in instinct and understanding woven into intuition. It revealed the existence of the opposing force, a force ancient enough to challenge the architects, a force dormant until humanity's activation of the network, a force now stirring. The galaxy trembled with the realization. Humanity had not disappeared. Humanity had stepped onto the first stage of a cosmic battlefield. The architect's learning channels intensified. Human vessels glowed with new energy patterns, patterns the galaxy had never recorded before. Some ships expanded as though unfolding previously hidden layers. Others contracted into more focused shapes. They were evolving in real time, reshaping themselves using the knowledge imparted by the architect. Humanity, always quick to adapt, was now adapting at the speed of ancient technology. Earth responded to this transformation. Energy storms crackled across its skies. Artificial auroras danced from pole to pole. Structures rebuilt themselves at molecular scales. In deserts across the American Southwest, entire complexes rose from beneath the sand, forming towers that pierced clouds, each acting as amplifiers for signals exchanged between Earth and the rift. Humanity was becoming more than a species. Humanity was becoming a force. Yet no one knew whether this force was enough. Because the dark shapes moving beyond the galaxy's edge were accelerating. The ancient enemy, whoever or whatever they were, had felt the network awaken. The opposing wavefront approached with terrifying speed. The galaxy braced for a confrontation older than its recorded history. Yet even as dread rippled outward, hope rose within the observers, because humanity, the species once dismissed as primitive, unpredictable, and fragile, now stood at the center of the greatest struggle the galaxy had ever known. And humanity did not rise quietly. Humanity ascended with purpose. The stage was set. The architects had awakened. The enemy had stirred. And humanity, vanished from Earth, reborn in the rift, prepared to meet destiny head-on. The galaxy prepared for conflict on a scale it had never envisioned. Across every arm of the Milky Way, civilizations recalibrated their defenses, recharted their star maps, and reevaluated everything they had once believed. The opening of the silent rift had redefined the possible. The awakening of the architect had redefined the living, and humanity's ascent had redefined destiny. Yet even as the galaxy readied itself, humanity stood at the center of something far older and far greater than any recorded conflict. The ancient network, now fully active, thrummed with pulses that echoed across space-time. Its radiant lattice spanned the interior of the rift, forming pathways and conduits of information at scales incomprehensible to most minds. Its awakening had pierced the great cosmic hush that had lasted for millions of years. And in response, the enemy stirred. Sensors positioned at the outer boundary of the galaxy detected the first gravitational distortions. They appeared as ripples in dark matter fields, advancing not like fleets of ships, but like migrating storms, broad, sweeping fronts of mass that obeyed no known laws of propulsion. Their movement was not linear, but fractal, branching and rejoining across distances with impossible coherence. Each anomaly carried a signature cold enough to drop nearby temperatures to near absolute zero. Light bent around them, particles lost energy near them. Space itself seemed to resist their presence, as though reality strained against the pressure of their arrival. These distortions formed a web across the galaxy's edge. Then they accelerated inward. The ancient enemy had arrived. For eons, the galaxy had guessed at their existence only through ruins and rumors, stories of civilizations consumed, architectures shattered, knowledge erased. The architects had fallen before them. The network had gone dormant to prevent detection. And millennium after millennium passed, while the surviving younger species lived unaware of the threat beyond the void. Humanity had awakened the network, and the enemy had sensed the ignition. But humanity had also awakened something else, something the enemy clearly had not anticipated. The architect, now fully active, extended its luminous structures deeper into the rift, forming a sphere of shielding energy around the human fleet. The 500,000 vessels hovered within its protective aura, absorbing torrents of data and harnessing technologies far beyond anything humanity had ever conceived. Ships reshaped themselves under the architect's guidance. Hulls vibrated as molecular structures realigned. Engines pulsed with freshly imparted knowledge, their energy signatures shifting from fusion-derived output to something closer to quantum resonance. Vessels expanded, contracted, and reconfigured according to a logic woven through the network's ancient memory. A new fleet was being born, not human-built, but human-guided. Ships forged not in shipyards, but in the crucible of cosmic craftsmanship. A fleet capable of meeting the enemy on equal footing. As the transformation continued, humanity itself underwent change. The energy that once carried their bodies into ascension now flowed freely. Why through their vessels, imprinting each ship with consciousness. Billions of minds synchronized across the fleet not through mechanical networks, but through the network of the architect, an ancient construct built precisely for species capable of merging willpower, intellect, resilience, and intuition. Humanity had not become machines. Humanity had become a choir, individual wills harmonizing into something greater. Each human mind maintained its essence, its identity, its memories of Earth. Yet together, the species formed an intelligence impossible for predecessors to predict. It was no longer a question of human evolution. It was the revelation of human potential. Back on Earth, the planetary system reached crescendo. North America's geometric grids radiated blinding light, carving luminous pathways that spilled from continent to ocean. The entire United States shone with structured patterns, turning the surface into a tapestry of shimmering circuitry. The Great Plains pulsed like the heartbeat of a titan. Mountain ranges vibrated with frequencies matching those in the rift. Artificial auroras rippled across the skies, painting the heavens with streaks of gold and violet. Earth was no longer dormant. Earth was joining the network. Cities transformed, structures disassembled and reformed, roads shifted into energy conduits, landmarks that once served symbolic roles, monuments, towers, memorials, now acted as anchor points for a planetary-scale lattice of quantum energy. Far beneath the crust, oceans of molten rock churned into patterns shaped by magnetic forces not found in nature. Volcanoes stabilized, weather systems aligned. Earth was preparing as though it, too, awaited a confrontation. The network had connected not just to humanity, but to humanity's world. It was no longer clear where humanity ended and where Earth began. The galaxy watched in astonishment, fear, reverence, and disbelief. Here was a species that had vanished overnight, yet instead of fading into myth, they had risen into legend, and they were still rising. Then, as if signaled by Earth's awakening, the architect opened its interior. A blinding sphere of light expanded outward from its core. In an instant, every human vessel felt a pull, not coercive, but invitational. The fleet responded in unison, guided by instinct and intuition. They gathered into a massive, spiraling formation. Energy collected at their cores. They oriented themselves toward the galaxy's edge, where distortions approached like a tide of shadows. Humanity understood the truth. The architect had not awakened to defend itself. It had awakened to complete the mission it had been built for. And humanity, was the instrument chosen to wield its final legacy. The distortions breached the first line of galactic defense. Stars flickered as gravitational anomalies swept through them. Some stars destabilized, others dimmed, yet the galaxy's civilizations stood ready. The Jar Dominion mobilized its largest war engines, moving them into phalanx formations along likely incursion paths. The Cathari deployed gravity traps capable of collapsing enemy structures. The Avril linked their collective empathy to stabilize the morale of allies across dozens of systems. But even united, the galaxy knew it could not withstand the storm. The enemy was too vast, too ancient, too relentless. All known civilizations combined could only slow the inevitable ascent of the Dark Front. Only one force could meet the enemy on equal terms. Only one species could wield the architect's legacy. Only one fleet could intercept the incoming tide. Humanity. The architect's core flared once more, and the light spread across the human fleet. Each vessel absorbed the radiance, their hulls glowing with patterns of fractal circuitry. The energy of an ancient civilization flowed into the arteries of an emergent one. The human fleet ascended. They rose through the heart of the rift like a star being born. Their formation extended into a spiral, a helix, a wave of radiant force carrying the combined strength, intelligence, and willpower of billions. In the space of moments, humanity completed a transformation that would have taken lesser species millennia. The fleet reached the rift's boundary, and humanity re-entered the galaxy. Not as refugees, not as survivors, not as remnants, but as the inheritors of an ancient mission, equipped with the knowledge of those who had vanished long before them. A force forged from a species capable of both tenderness and ferocity, compassion and defiance, imagination and discipline. A species perfectly suited to confront the darkness. The galaxy witnessed a sight it would remember for eons. 500,000 ships emerging from the rift, glowing with architect-born energy, arranged in perfect formation. Their arrival sent ripples through space-time, stabilizing gravitational fields destabilized by the approaching enemy. The mere presence of humanity altered the shape of the battlefield. The distortions reached visual range. What emerged from them defied categorization. They were not machines, they were not organisms, they were not spirits or constructs. They were distortions, regions where reality twisted into knots, where physical laws fluctuated, where matter flickered between states and time oscillated unpredictably. The enemy was not a species. The enemy was an entropy, a devouring force that erased civilizations by unraveling structure, meaning, and memory. A tide that unmade, a hunger that reshaped order into void. The architects had fought them once and failed. But humanity was not the architects. Humanity was the unexpected variable. Humanity was the unpredictable force the enemy could not calculate. Humanity was the species whose greatest power came from turning adversity into triumph. Humanity was the resonance the network had waited for. The battle began not with weapons, but with resonance. The human fleet projected the architect's harmonic grid across the battlefield. Energy lines extended from ship to ship, forming a unified shield that stabilized reality itself. The distortions collided with the grid and stalled. For the first time in recorded history, the entropy was resisted. Then the human fleet struck. Weapons fired not energy bolts, but structural stabilizers, bursts of crystallizing force that bound spacetime into coherence. Where they landed, distortions collapsed. The enemy recoiled. Humanity advanced. Across the galaxy, every species felt a surge of hope. Against the overwhelming darkness, humanity stood. Against the ancient enemy, humanity held. Against the devouring force, humanity pushed back. And then something extraordinary happened. Earth responded. The entire planet pulsed with a harmonic burst that echoed through the network, into the rift, and across humanity's fleet. The burst amplified human resonance. The stabilizing grid brightened, weapons strengthened, consciousness intensified. Humanity and Earth had become one force. A species and a world fighting together. The enemy faltered. And in the blinding culmination of the first clash, in a war older than the galaxy, humanity unleashed the architect's final gift, a wave of harmonic resonance strong enough to carve permanence into space-time. The distortions shattered. The darkness recoiled. The enemy retreated. The galaxy erupted in awe, relief, and disbelief. Against a threat older than stars, against a force that had once defeated the architects themselves, humanity had stood and prevailed in the first encounter. The silent rift closed, not in collapse, but in stabilization. The architect remained active, now joined by Earth in the network's cosmic lattice. The enemy had not been destroyed, but it had been stopped. For the first time in millions of years, the galaxy saw that the ancient tide could be resisted. Humanity became more than a species. Humanity became the bulwark, a force standing between civilization and oblivion. The galaxy looked upon Earth with new eyes, not as a backwater world, not as an unpredictable anomaly, but as the cradle of the defenders who had altered the destiny of all life. Humanity had vanished overnight. Humanity had ascended beyond imagination. And humanity had returned as the light at the edge of the void. The story was no longer about disappearance. It had become a story of emergence, a declaration across the stars that humanity had stepped into its cosmic role, a role no other species could fill, a role billions would remember. For on the day the darkness arrived, the galaxy whispered one truth in unison. Humanity had not just risen. Humanity had saved them all.